What if I told you that you've been programmed to stay exactly where you are right now? That your brain has been hijacked by patterns so deeply embedded that you're essentially living the same day over and over again, wondering why nothing ever changes? What if the very thoughts you think are your own are actually just recycled programs running on autopilot, keeping you trapped in cycles of struggle, exhaustion, and limitation? Right now, as you listen to these words, 90% of the thoughts flowing through your mind are identical to the ones you had yesterday and the day before that. And the day before that, you're not just thinking the same thoughts, you're literally rewiring your brain to ensure that tomorrow will be a carbon copy of today. Your neural pathways have become superhighways of habit, and you're speeding down them without even realizing you're behind the wheel. But here's what's truly extraordinary. Science has now proven that this programming isn't permanent. The same neuroplasticity that trapped you in these patterns can liberate you from them. The same brain that learned to limit you can learn to free you. The same mind that created your current reality can architect an entirely new one. This is the story of how human beings break free from the invisible prison of their own conditioning. It's about the moment when ordinary people discover they possess extraordinary power. The power to literally rewire their brains, reprogram their bodies, and reshape their entire existence. It's about that precise moment when you stop being the victim of your circumstances and become the creator of your destiny. The journey begins with a shocking revelation: most people have lost their free will without even knowing it. They wake up each morning and automatically slip into the same mental patterns, emotional states, and behavioral routines that have defined them for years, sometimes decades. They're not choosing their thoughts are choosing them. They're not controlling their emotions are controlling them. They're not directing their actions, their habits are directing their actions. But why does this happen? How did we become prisoners of our own minds? The answer lies in the fundamental way your brain operates. Every thought you think creates a corresponding neural pathway in your brain. When you think that thought again, you strengthen that pathway. Think it a third time, and the pathway becomes even more robust. Continue this process day after day, month after month, year after year, and something remarkable happens. The pathway becomes so strong, so automatic, that it begins to fire without your conscious involvement. Neuroscientists call this neurons that fire together, wire together. It's the brain's way of becoming efficient. Why waste energy consciously choosing your response to every situation when you can just run the same program automatically? The problem is, this efficiency comes at a terrible cost to your freedom. Consider this: when you have a thought about being unworthy of love, that thought doesn't just disappear into thin air. It creates a specific chemical signature in your brain and body. Your brain releases neurotransmitters that make you feel unworthy. Your body responds by producing hormones that reinforce that unworthiness. You literally become addicted to the chemistry of being unworthy. Now, here's where it gets truly insidious. The next time a situation arises that could trigger thoughts about your worthiness, your body craves that familiar chemical cocktail. It's not enough to just think you're unworthy. You need to feel it in your bones. So your subconscious mind begins to scan your environment for evidence to support this belief. It finds a sideways glance from a stranger, a delayed text message from a friend, a minor criticism at work, and interprets all of these as confirmation of your own worthiness. This creates a vicious cycle. Your thoughts create your emotions drive your thoughts, and together they create your behaviors. Your behaviors then create experiences that seem to validate your original thoughts, and the cycle continues, growing stronger with each revolution. But the most devastating part of this cycle is how it operates beneath the threshold of consciousness. You're not aware that you're choosing unworthiness. It feels like unworthiness is choosing you. You don't realize you're creating evidence for your limitations. It seems like life itself is proving you right. You don't understand that you're the author of your own suffering. It appears that suffering is simply the nature of existence. This is what it means to be programmed. You're running software that was installed without your permission, executing commands you never consciously chose, producing results you never wanted. And the most sophisticated aspect of this programming is that it convinces you that you have no other choice. The moment you begin to question this programming is the moment your transformation begins. But questioning isn't enough. To truly break free, you must understand exactly how these patterns were recreated and precisely how they can be dismantled. Let's dive deeper into the mechanics of mental imprisonment. Your brain is simultaneously the most sophisticated computer ever created and the most primitive survival machine ever evolved. These two aspects of your neural architecture are constantly at war with each other, and understanding this conflict is crucial to your liberation. The primitive brain, your limbic system and brainstem, is designed for one thing: keeping you alive. It's constantly scanning for threats, evaluating dangers, and preparing your body for fight, flight, or freeze responses. This ancient system doesn't care about your happiness, your potential, or your dreams. It cares about your survival, period. When this primitive system detects a threat, real or imagined, it floods your bloodstream with stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. Your heart rate increases, your breathing becomes shallow, your muscles tense, and your attention narrows to focus exclusively on the perceived danger. This is an incredibly powerful and useful system when you're facing an actual physical threat. The problem is, your primitive brain can't distinguish between a saber-toothed tiger and a critical email from your boss. It can't tell the difference between physical danger and emotional discomfort. When you think about giving a presentation, asking someone on a date, starting a business, or making any significant change in your life, your primitive brain interprets these thoughts as threats and responds accordingly. Now, here's the crucial part. When you're in this state of threat detection, your brain literally cannot access its higher functions. The prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for creativity, problem-solving, learning, and conscious choice, goes offline. You're operating purely from programs and patterns that were installed during previous experiences. This is why you can know exactly what you should do to improve your life, but find yourself completely unable to do it. It's why you can read self-help books, attend seminars, and make resolution after resolution, only to find yourself back in the same patterns within days or weeks. You're trying to create a change from the very state of consciousness that created your problems in the first place. Think about the last time you were stressed or anxious. Could you think clearly? Could you access your creativity? Could you see solutions that normally would be obvious to you? Of course not. When you're in survival mode, you're literally running on the mental equivalent of Windows 95 while trying to perform tasks that require the latest operating system. This is why most people's attempts at personal transformation fail. They're trying to create their future from their past. They're attempting to generate new results from old states of being. They're hoping to transcend their limitations while remaining trapped in the very consciousness that created those limitations. But what if there was another way? What if you could learn to regulate your internal state so effectively that you could access your higher brain functions on command? What if you could literally reprogram your nervous system to serve your evolution instead of your survival? This is where the science of personal transformation becomes truly exciting. Recent research in neuroscience has revealed that your brain is far more malleable than previously thought. You can literally rewire your neural networks, change your brain chemistry, and even alter your genetic expression through conscious practice. The key lies in understanding that change must happen from the inside out, not the outside in. Most people try to change their external circumstances, hoping that will change how they feel inside. But true transformation works in reverse. You must change your internal state first, and your external reality will reorganize itself to match. This process begins with becoming conscious of your unconscious patterns. Right now, you're running programs that you're completely unaware of. These programs control how you think, how you feel, and how you behave, but they operate below the level of your conscious awareness. The first step in reclaiming your power is to shine the light of consciousness on these hidden programs. You must become the observer of your own mind. You must catch yourself in the act of thinking the thoughts that create your limitations, feeling the emotions that perpetuate your problems, and engaging in the behaviors that produce your unwanted results. This might sound simple, but it's actually one of the most challenging things a human being can do. These patterns have been running automatically for so long that they feel like they are you. The voice in your head that says, "I'm not good enough," doesn't feel like a program. It feels like the truth. The anxiety you feel when thinking about change doesn't seem like a chemical addiction. It seems like a rational response to real danger. But as you begin to observe these patterns with detached awareness, something remarkable happens. You start to realize that you are not your thoughts. You are the thinker of your thoughts. You are not your emotions. You are the experiencer of your emotions. You are not your programs. You are the consciousness that can choose to run different programs. This realization is the beginning of your freedom. The moment you understand that there is a gap between stimulus and response, a space where choice lives, your entire world changes. You realize that no external circumstance, no matter how challenging, can force you to think, feel, or behave in any particular way. You have the ultimate freedom, the freedom to choose your response to any situation. But awareness alone isn't enough. You must take this understanding and apply it in the crucible of daily life. This is where most people fail. They have moments of insight, brief glimpses of their potential, but they don't have the tools or the training to sustain these elevated states. This is where the ancient practice of meditation meets cutting-edge neuroscience. Meditation isn't just about relaxation or stress relief. It's about literally training your brain to function differently. When you meditate, you're practicing the skill of conscious attention. You're strengthening your ability to observe your thoughts without being consumed by them, to witness your emotions without being controlled by them, to notice your urges without automatically acting on them. But not all meditation is created equal. The kind of meditation that creates lasting transformation is very specific. You're not just sitting quietly hoping to feel peaceful. You're actively reprogramming your nervous system. You're teaching your brain new ways of functioning. You're installing new software that will run automatically when you need it most. The process works like this. When you sit in meditation and your mind begins to wander, which it will constantly, you have a choice. You can follow the thought, get lost in the story, and strengthen the neural pathway that keeps you trapped in automatic patterns. Or you can notice the thought, gently redirect your attention back to your breath or your chosen point of focus, and strengthen the neural pathway of conscious choice. Every time you choose awareness over automaticity, you're literally rewiring your brain. You're weakening the neural networks that keep you trapped and strengthening the networks that set you free. You're teaching your nervous system that you, not your conditioning, are in charge. But here's what makes this process truly powerful. You're not just changing how you respond to meditation. You're changing how you respond to life. The skills you develop on the meditation cushion transfer directly to every other area of your existence. The ability to observe your thoughts without being controlled by them becomes available in every moment. The capacity to choose your response instead of reacting automatically becomes your new default mode. This is why people who develop a serious meditation practice often report that their entire lives transform, not just their inner experience. They start making different choices, pursuing different goals, responding to challenges differently. They begin to operate from their highest potential instead of their lowest common denominator. Now, let's explore the specific mechanics of how this transformation occurs at the level of brain chemistry and neural architecture. When you're living in a state of chronic stress, which most people are, your brain is dominated by beta brainwave patterns. Beta waves are associated with analytical thinking, problem solving, and focused attention on the external world. While these are useful states for certain activities, when they become chronic, they trap you in survival mode. In survival mode, your brain is constantly scanning for problems to solve, threats to avoid, and situations to control. Your attention is fragmented, jumping from one concern to another. You're living in a state of continuous partial attention, never fully present in any moment. Your nervous system is locked in a pattern of fight or flight activation that keeps you anxious, exhausted, and reactive. But when you learn to regulate your brainwave states through meditation, breathing techniques, and other consciousness practices, something extraordinary happens. You begin to access alpha brainwave patterns, the neurological state associated with creativity, insight, and relaxed awareness. In alpha states, the analytical mind relaxes its grip on your consciousness. The door between your conscious and subconscious mind opens. This is where real change becomes possible because this is where your programs are stored. In this state, you can literally rewrite the code that runs your life. But alpha is just the beginning. As your practice deepens, you can learn to access even slower brainwave patterns, theta and delta, where profound transformation occurs. In theta states, you're highly suggestible to new programming. This is the neurological state where you can install new beliefs, new emotional patterns, and new behavioral programs at the deepest level. Think of it this way, your conscious mind is like the user interface of a computer. It's what you see and interact with on the surface. But your subconscious mind is like the operating system. It's what actually runs the programs that determine how everything functions. Most people spend their entire lives trying to change things at the user interface level, while the operating system continues running the same old programs. Meditation allows you to access the operating system level of your consciousness and make changes at the source. But this requires more than just sitting quietly and hoping for the best. You need specific techniques designed to regulate your brainwave states, access your subconscious programming, and install new patterns that serve your highest good. One of the most powerful techniques for creating this kind of deep transformation involves working with your breath. Your breath is the bridge between your conscious and unconscious mind, between your voluntary and involuntary nervous systems. When you learn to breathe in specific ways, you can directly influence your brainwave states, your neurochemistry, and your genetic expression. For instance, there's a breathing technique that involves drawing energy up from the base of your spine to the top of your head while breathing in a specific pattern. This isn't just a metaphorical visualization, it's a literal rewiring of your nervous system. When done correctly, this practice can create such a profound shift in consciousness that people report feeling like they're experiencing an entirely different reality. During this kind of practice, people often experience what can only be described as mystical or transcendent states. Their brain scans show gamma brainwave patterns, the highest frequency brainwaves associated with peak performance, heightened awareness, and unity consciousness. In these states, people report feeling connected to something infinitely larger than themselves, experiencing unconditional love, and having insights that permanently alter their understanding of reality. But here's what's truly remarkable. These aren't just temporary peak experiences that fade as soon as the meditation ends. When done consistently over time, these practices create lasting changes in brain structure and function. People develop more neural connections between different regions of their brain, increased activity in areas associated with compassion and self-awareness, and decreased activity in areas associated with fear and reactivity. The changes aren't just neurological, they're also physiological. People who engage in these practices regularly show improvements in immune function, cardiovascular health, hormonal balance, and even genetic expression. They're literally becoming different people at the cellular level. This brings us to one of the most fascinating aspects of consciousness-based transformation: the role of emotion in creating lasting change. Most people think of emotions as reactions to external circumstances, but the truth is far more empowering. Emotions are actually the chemical signatures of your thoughts, and you have much more control over them than you might realize. When you think a thought, any thought, your brain immediately produces corresponding neurochemicals. Think a fearful thought, and your brain releases stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. Think a loving thought, and your brain releases oxytocin and endorphins. Think a grateful thought, and your brain releases serotonin and dopamine. Here's the crucial insight: your body doesn't know the difference between an emotion generated by an external experience and an emotion generated by your own thoughts and intentions. If you can learn to generate elevated emotions like gratitude, love, joy, and compassion through pure intention, your body will respond as if these emotional states are being created by external circumstances. This is the secret to creating your future before it happens. Instead of waiting for external events to make you feel good, you learn to feel good first, and then your life reorganizes itself to match those elevated states. Instead of being at the mercy of your circumstances, you become the creator of your circumstances. But this requires a fundamental shift in how you relate to yourself and your potential. Most people are addicted to their problems. They get up every morning and immediately start thinking about everything that's wrong in their lives. They rehearse their limitations, their fears, their disappointments, and their frustrations. They literally train themselves to expect more of the same. This isn't just negative thinking. It's negative being. When you consistently think limiting thoughts and feel limiting emotions, you literally become a living, breathing expression of limitation. Your posture changes, your voice changes, your energy changes. You broadcast a signal into the quantum field that says, "More limitation, please." But what if you could learn to broadcast a different signal? What if you could get up every morning and immediately begin thinking thoughts of possibility, feeling emotions of empowerment, and imagining yourself living the life you truly desire? What if you could become such a clear, consistent expression of your highest potential that the universe had no choice but to deliver experiences that match that frequency? This is what happens when you learn to live from your future rather than your past. Instead of letting your past experiences determine your future possibilities, You let your future vision determine your present moment choices. Instead of being defined by who you've been, you become defined by who you're becoming. The process begins with getting extremely clear about who you want to be and how you want to live, not just what you want to have or achieve, but who you want to become as a person. What qualities do you want to embody? What emotions do you want to experience regularly? What kind of energy do you want to bring to every situation? Once you're clear on your future self, you begin the practice of becoming that person before your external circumstances change. You start thinking the thoughts your future self would think, feeling the emotions your future self would feel, and making the choices your future self would make. This isn't positive thinking or wishful dreaming. It's mental rehearsal at the highest level. Athletes have used mental rehearsal for decades to improve their performance. They visualize themselves executing perfect technique, competing with confidence, and achieving their goals. Brain scans show that when they do this, the same neural networks fire as when they're actually performing their sport. The same principle applies to personal transformation. When you mentally rehearse being your ideal self, your brain begins to create the neural networks necessary to actually become that person. You're literally wiring your brain for success before success has manifested in your external reality. But mental rehearsal alone isn't enough. You must also learn to generate the emotions of your future self. This is where most people get stuck. They can visualize their ideal life, but they can't feel it. They can imagine being successful, but they can't generate the feeling of already being successful. They can picture themselves being confident, but they can't access the emotion of confidence. Learning to generate elevated emotions on command is perhaps the most important skill you can develop. It's the difference between hoping for change and actually creating change. It's the difference between wanting a different life and living a different life. The process requires you to break your addiction to your current emotional patterns and develop new ones. Just as you might be addicted to caffeine or sugar, you can be addicted to stress, anxiety, frustration, or victimization. These emotions create specific chemical cocktails in your body, and over time, your body begins to crave these chemicals. When you try to feel differently, to access states like joy, gratitude, or peace, your body may actually resist. It's been conditioned to expect certain chemicals, and when you don't provide them, it sends signals to your brain requesting them. This is why it can feel so difficult to maintain positive states, especially in the beginning. Your body will literally try to seduce you back into familiar emotional patterns. You might sit down to meditate and immediately be flooded with thoughts about everything you need to worry about. You might try to feel grateful and find yourself thinking about everything that's wrong in your life. This isn't weakness or lack of discipline. It's your body trying to get its fix of familiar emotions. But if you persist, if you continue to choose elevated emotions despite your body's resistance, something remarkable happens. You begin to literally recondition your nervous system. Your body learns to expect and crave these new emotional states. The neural pathways associated with stress and limitation waken, while the pathways associated with empowerment and possibility strengthen. This reconditioning process is greatly accelerated when you combine mental and emotional rehearsal with physical practices. Your body needs to experience what it feels like to be your future self, not just think about it. This is why practices like yoga, tai chi, and conscious movement are so powerful. They allow you to literally embody new ways of being. When you stand with the posture of someone who is confident, you begin to feel confident. When you breathe with the rhythm of someone who is calm and centered, you become calm and centered. When you move with the energy of someone who is joyful and alive, you embody joy and aliveness. These aren't just feel-good practices. They're precise technologies for rewiring your nervous system. Every time you consciously choose to hold your body in a way that represents your highest potential, you're strengthening the neural networks that support that potential. The key is consistency and repetition. Just as you didn't develop your current patterns overnight, you won't transform them overnight. But here's what's encouraging: change happens much faster than most people realize when you know what you're doing and you do it correctly. Modern neuroscience has shown that you can begin to see measurable changes in brain function within just a few days of consistent practice. After a week of dedicated effort, you can observe significant shifts in neural connectivity. After a month, you can see structural changes in brain anatomy. After 3 months, you can literally become a different person neurologically. But the real magic happens when these internal changes begin to manifest as external results. When you've successfully rewired your internal programming, your external reality has no choice but to organize itself to match. Opportunities that were invisible to you before suddenly become obvious. People who never noticed you before are drawn to your new energy. Circumstances that seemed fixed and unchangeable begin to shift in your favor. This isn't wishful thinking or magical belief, it's quantum physics. At the most fundamental level of reality, everything is energy and information. When you change your internal energy and information patterns, you change how you interact with the quantum field. You begin to attract experiences, people, and opportunities that match your new frequency. Many people find this concept difficult to accept because it challenges their fundamental assumptions about how reality works. They've been conditioned to believe that external circumstances determine internal states, that you feel good when good things happen to you, and you feel bad when bad things happen to you. But the truth is far more empowering. Your internal state determines what you attract into your external reality. When you feel abundant, you attract abundance. When you feel loving, you attract love. When you feel confident, you attract opportunities to express that confidence. This is why so many people struggle with the law of attraction. They try to use their thoughts to attract what they want while remaining trapped in emotional states that contradict their desires. They visualize abundance while feeling scarcity. They affirm success while experiencing doubt. They hope for love while being consumed by fear. True manifestation requires complete alignment between your thoughts, emotions, and energy. You must think, feel, and be the change you want to see in your life. You must become so familiar with your future self that it feels more real than your current circumstances. This process is greatly accelerated when you understand the role of the heart in personal transformation. Recent research has shown that your heart is not just a pump, it's actually a sophisticated information processing center with its own neural network. Your heart has approximately 40,000 neurons, more than many areas of your brain. When your heart and brain are in coherence, when their rhythms are synchronized, something extraordinary happens. You gain access to a kind of intelligence that transcends ordinary analytical thinking. You begin to receive insights, solutions, and inspirations that seem to come from beyond your normal mental processes. Heart-brain coherence also creates a powerful electromagnetic field around your body. This field extends several feet in all directions and carries information about your internal state. When you're in a coherent state, you literally broadcast a signal of harmony, balance, and well-being that other people can sense and feel. Learning to create heart-brain coherence is one of the most practical and powerful skills you can develop. It involves focusing your attention on your heart area while breathing in a smooth, rhythmic pattern. As you do this, you intentionally generate feelings of appreciation, gratitude, compassion, or love. This isn't just a relaxation technique, it's a precise method for optimizing your physiology and psychology simultaneously. When you achieve coherence, your nervous system shifts out of fight or flight mode and into a state of calm alertness. Your brainwaves synchronize, your heart rhythm becomes smooth and ordered, and your entire system operates with greater efficiency and intelligence. Regular practice of heart-brain coherence has been shown to improve decision-making, increase emotional stability, enhance creativity, boost immune function, and even slow the aging process. People who develop this skill report feeling more connected to themselves and others, more confident in their abilities, and more optimistic about their futures. But perhaps most importantly, heart-brain coherence allows you to access what can only be described as your higher intelligence. In this state, you gain access to insights, solutions, and creative ideas that your ordinary analytical mind simply cannot generate. You begin to operate from intuition rather than just intellect, from wisdom rather than just knowledge. This higher intelligence is always available to you, but it's usually drowned out by the noise of your analytical mind and your emotional reactivity. When you learn to quiet the mental chatter and regulate your emotional state, you create space for this deeper intelligence to emerge. Many of the most successful and innovative people throughout history have learned to access this state regularly. They've discovered that their best ideas, their most important insights, and their most effective solutions come not from forcing and striving, but from relaxing into a state of open, receptive awareness. This is why meditation and other consciousness practices are not just about personal development. They're about accessing your full potential as a human being. When you learn to operate from these elevated states of consciousness, you're not just changing yourself. You're changing what you're capable of contributing to the world. But accessing these states occasionally is not enough to create lasting transformation. You must learn to sustain them throughout your daily life. This is where the practice becomes truly challenging and truly rewarding. Most people can achieve elevated states when they're sitting quietly in meditation, but they lose those states the moment they encounter stress, challenge, or disruption. The goal is to become so skilled at regulating your internal state that you can maintain coherence and consciousness no matter what's happening around you. This requires you to view every challenging situation as an opportunity to practice. Instead of seeing problems as obstacles, you begin to see them as training grounds for developing unshakable inner stability. Instead of avoiding difficulty, you welcome it as a chance to demonstrate your mastery over your own mind and emotions. This shift in perspective is one of the most important aspects of true personal transformation. When you no longer need your external circumstances to be perfect in order for you to feel good, you become truly free. When you can maintain your center regardless of what storms may be raging around you, you become truly powerful. This doesn't mean you become passive or indifferent to what happens in your life. Rather, you become incredibly responsive without being reactive. You maintain the ability to take appropriate action while remaining anchored in your deepest truth. You learn to navigate the challenges of life from a place of strength, wisdom, and love rather than from fear, confusion, and reactivity. The development of this kind of inner mastery requires consistent daily practice. Just as you wouldn't expect to develop physical fitness by exercising once a month, you can't expect to develop mental and emotional fitness without regular training. The most effective approach is to begin each day with a dedicated practice that sets the tone for everything that follows. This might include meditation, breathwork, visualization, journaling, or any combination of consciousness, expanding activities. The key is to make this practice non-negotiable, as important as brushing your teeth or eating breakfast. During this morning practice, you're not just trying to feel good or relax. You're actively programming your nervous system for the day ahead. You're rehearsing how you want to think, feel, and behave in various situations you might encounter. You're strengthening the neural pathways that support your highest potential and weakening those that keep you trapped in limitation. As you continue this practice day after day, week after week, month after month, something remarkable happens. The person you are during your morning practice begins to merge with the person you are throughout the rest of your day. The elevated states you access in meditation become increasingly available in every moment. The insights and inspirations that come during quiet reflection begin to guide your actions and decisions. Eventually, there's no separation between your spiritual practice and your daily life. You become a living expression of the consciousness you've been cultivating. Your very presence begins to inspire and uplift others. People are drawn to your energy without fully understanding why. Opportunities and synchronicities begin appearing in your life with increasing frequency. This is not the result of wishful thinking or positive visualization alone. This is the natural consequence of aligning yourself with the fundamental laws of consciousness and quantum physics. When you change your internal frequency, you change what you attract and what you're capable of creating. The process requires patience, dedication, and unwavering commitment to your own growth. There will be days when you don't feel like practicing, when the old patterns seem easier, when you question whether any of this is really working. These are the most important days to continue your practice, because these are the days when you're breaking through the strongest resistance. Your conditioning will fight to maintain itself. Your ego will create elaborate justifications for why you should give up, postpone, or compromise your practice. Your body will crave the familiar chemistry of your old emotional patterns. Your mind will generate endless distractions and urgent priorities that seem more important than your inner work. But if you persist, if you continue showing up for yourself, even when it's difficult, you'll eventually reach a tipping point where the new patterns become stronger than the old ones. The elevated states become more familiar than the limited ones. The empowered choices become more automatic than the disempowered ones. This is when transformation shifts from being something you do to something you are. You're no longer trying to become a different person. You have become a different person. You're no longer working to create a different life. You are living a different life. The changes often happen so gradually that you don't fully realize how profound they are until you look back at where you started. You realize that problems that used to consume you for days or weeks now barely register. Challenges that used to overwhelm you now seem manageable, even exciting. Situations that used to trigger automatic reactions now offer opportunities for conscious response. More importantly, you begin to trust yourself in ways you never thought possible. You know that whatever happens, you have the tools and the inner resources to handle it with grace and wisdom. You are no longer at the mercy of your circumstances, your emotions, or your conditioning. You've become the master of your own experience. This inner mastery then radiates outward to affect every area of your life. Your relationships become more authentic and fulfilling because you're relating from your true self rather than your programmed self. Your work becomes more meaningful and successful because you're operating from your full potential rather than your limitations. Your health improves because you're no longer constantly bathing your cells in stress hormones. But perhaps most importantly, you begin to remember who you really are beneath all the conditioning and programming. You rediscover the infinite being that exists beyond your thoughts, emotions, and circumstances. You reconnect with the part of you that is timeless, limitless, and eternally whole. This remembering is not just a personal healing, it's a healing for the entire world. When you break free from the illusion of separation and limitation, you become a living demonstration that transformation is possible. Your very existence becomes proof that human beings are capable of far more than they typically express. In a world where most people are trapped in cycles of fear, scarcity, and reactivity, someone who embodies love, abundance, and conscious response becomes a beacon of possibility. You don't have to preach or teach or try to convince anyone of anything. Your transformation speaks for itself. People will begin to notice that you're different, though they may not be able to articulate exactly how. You'll emanate a quality of presence that others find calming and inspiring. You'll respond to challenges in ways that others find surprising and admirable. You'll create results that others consider impossible or miraculous. This is not because you've become superhuman, but because you've learned to access and express the superhuman potential that exists within every person. You've discovered how to tap into the infinite intelligence, creativity, and love that is your birthright as a conscious being. The journey from unconscious limitation to conscious creation is one of the most challenging and rewarding adventures a human being can undertake. It requires you to question everything you've been taught about what's possible. It demands that you take complete responsibility for your experience rather than blaming external circumstances. It calls you to love yourself and others in ways that transcend ordinary understanding. But for those who are willing to make this journey, the rewards are literally infinite. You don't just change your life, you discover that you are life itself expressing through a temporary human form. You don't just solve your problems, you transcend the consciousness that created them. You don't just achieve your goals, you realize that you are the source from which all achievement flows. As we near the end of our exploration together, I want to emphasize that everything we've discussed is not theoretical or abstract. These are practical, scientifically validated principles that can be applied immediately in your daily life. The neuroscience is real, the techniques are proven, and the results are measurable. Thousands of people from all walks of life have used these principles to create profound transformations in their health, relationships, careers, and overall life satisfaction. They've healed from illnesses that doctors said were incurable. They've created abundance where there was once scarcity. They've found love where there was once loneliness. They've discovered purpose where there was once confusion. What makes these transformations possible is not some special gift or talent that only a few possess. It's the willingness to take responsibility for your own consciousness and to do the consistent inner work necessary to change from the inside out. The process begins with a single decision, the decision to no longer accept limitation as your reality. The moment you truly commit to becoming the best version of yourself, the entire universe begins to conspire to support your transformation. Opportunities appear, teachers emerge, resources manifest, and synchronicities multiply. But commitment is not a one-time decision. It's a choice you must make new every day, sometimes every moment. There will be setbacks, challenges, and periods of doubt. There will be times when the old patterns seem stronger than your new intentions. There will be moments when you question whether any of this is really working. These are the moments that define your transformation. These are the times when you discover what you're truly made of. These are the opportunities to demonstrate your commitment to your own evolution and to break through to new levels of possibility. Remember that every master was once a beginner. Every expert was once a novice. Every person who has achieved extraordinary results was once exactly where you are now, at the beginning of their journey, taking their first steps into unknown territory. The path of conscious transformation is not about reaching some final destination where everything is perfect and you never face challenges again. It's about becoming the kind of person who can navigate any challenge with grace, wisdom, and love. It's about developing the inner resources to create beauty, meaning, and contribution regardless of external circumstances. As you embark on or continue this journey, be patient with yourself. Be compassionate with your mistakes and failures. Celebrate your progress, no matter how small it may seem. Remember that every moment of conscious choice is a victory. Every instant of awareness is a breakthrough. Every breath taken in presence is a gift to yourself and the world. The time has come to stop living as a victim of your circumstances and start living as the creator of your destiny. The time has come to stop accepting limitation as reality and start expressing the infinite potential that lives within you. The time has come to stop waiting for permission from others and start giving yourself permission to become who you truly are. Your transformation is not just about you. It's about everyone whose life you touch. When you heal yourself, you heal your family lineage. When you break free from limitation, you make it easier for others to do the same. When you express your highest potential, you inspire others to express theirs. The world needs what you have to offer. The world needs your unique gifts, your particular perspective, your special contribution. But you can only give what you've first received. You can only share what you first embodied. You can only teach what you first learned. This is why your personal transformation is actually an act of service to humanity. By becoming all that you can be, you make it possible for others to do the same. By healing your own wounds, you help heal the collective wounds of humanity. By expressing your highest nature, you raise the consciousness of everyone around you. So as you take your next steps on this incredible journey, remember that you are not alone. You are supported by invisible forces, guided by infinite intelligence, and loved beyond measure by the very source of life itself. You have everything within you that you need to succeed. You lack nothing. You are enough. You are worthy. You are capable of creating miracles. The only question that remains is, are you ready to begin? If you found value in this exploration of personal transformation and the science of change, I encourage you to take action on what you've learned. Leave a comment below sharing which insight resonated most deeply with you or which technique you're most excited to try. Your thoughts and experiences not only help you integrate these concepts more fully, but also inspire others who are on their own journey of transformation. If this content has opened your mind to new possibilities, please share it with someone who might benefit from these insights. Sometimes a single idea, encountered at exactly the right moment, can completely change the trajectory of someone's life. You might be the catalyst for someone else's breakthrough. Subscribe to stay connected with more content that can support your ongoing evolution. The path of personal transformation is not a destination, but a continuous journey of discovery, growth, and expansion. Regular exposure to these principles and practices will help keep you aligned with your highest potential. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the intersection of neuroscience, consciousness, and personal transformation, give it a thumbs up to help others discover these empowering truths. Your engagement helps spread these life-changing concepts to those who are ready to receive them. Remember, every moment is a new opportunity to choose differently, to be differently, to create a differently. Your transformation starts now with your very next thought, breath, and choice. The infinite potential within you is ready to express itself. Are you ready to let it?